What does it take to become obscenely, outrageously, eye-wateringly rich in Australia? Is it luck? Connections? Being born into the right family? For some on this list, yes. But for others, it's a story of surviving wars, sleeping on floors, getting laughed out of boardrooms, and refusing to quit. Today, we're counting down the top 10 richest people in Australia, their stories, their secrets, and the jaw-dropping numbers behind their fortunes. Stay until the end, because number one is a story you won't forget. Let's get into it. What if you turned a $10,000 credit card loan into a $7.4 billion empire? That's exactly what Mike Cannon-Brookes did. Back in 2002, Mike and his university mate Scott Farquhar started Atlassian, a software company out of Sydney, with nothing but a laptop, a dream, and a maxed-out credit card. Fast forward to today, and Atlassian's tools like Jira and Confluence are used by millions of teams across the globe. But Mike isn't just sitting on his billions. He's become one of Australia's loudest voices for renewable energy, even making a jaw-dropping $8 billion bid to take over energy giant AGL. Love him or hate him, Mike Cannon-Brookes is proving that tech money can change the world. Fire fun fact: Mike once tweeted Elon Musk that he could solve South Australia's energy crisis, and Elon replied with a bet. They followed through and built the world's largest lithium-ion battery. You've probably never heard of this man, but he's almost certainly in your car. Vivek Chand Sehgal is the billionaire hiding in plain sight. As the chairman of Motherson Group, one of the world's largest auto component manufacturers, Vivek's parts are found in vehicles made by BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, and more. Born in India and now based in Australia, he built a $7.5 billion fortune by quietly dominating one of the least glamorous, but most essential, industries on the planet. No flashy tweets, no celebrity drama, just billions, one car part at a time. Fire fun fact: Motherson Group supplies auto components to over 40 of the world's top car manufacturers across more than 40 countries. She was rejected by over 100 investors. Today, she's worth $7.6 billion. Melanie Perkins was just 19 years old when she had the idea for Canva, a drag-and-drop design tool that anyone could use. The problem? Nobody believed in her. Investor after investor turned her down. One even suggested she come back when she had more experience. She didn't listen. Today, Canva is used by over 170 million people in 190 countries, and Melanie is one of the youngest self-made female billionaires on the planet. Oh, and she runs the company alongside her partner Cliff Obrecht, who's coming up next. Fire fun fact: to pitch to Silicon Valley investors, Melanie and Cliff flew to San Francisco and attended a kite surfing event just because one major investor was going to be there. That investor? He passed, but eventually, others didn't. This guy co-founded a $26 billion company and then pledged most of his wealth away before it even went public. Cliff Obrecht is Canva's co-founder and COO, and the other half of one of the most powerful couples in Australian business. While Melanie is the visionary CEO, Cliff is the operator making sure everything runs. But here's what makes Cliff truly stand out. Before Canva even launched its IPO, he and Melanie pledged 30% of their equity, worth billions, to charity. At just 40 years old, Cliff Obrecht is proof that you can build massive wealth and still choose to give most of it away. Fire fun fact: Cliff and Melanie are engaged and built Canva together from their kitchen table in Perth. Today, their company is valued at over $26 billion. He left school at 14 with nothing and built an $8 billion empire anyway. Kerry Stokes grew up in poverty, raised in an orphanage, and dropped out of school at just 14. No connections, no inheritance, no safety net. What he had was relentless hustle. He started in electronics and real estate before expanding into media, eventually acquiring Channel 7, one of Australia's biggest TV networks, and major stakes in equipment giant WestTrac. Today, at 85 years old, Kerry Stokes is a living reminder that your starting point doesn't determine your destination. Fire fun fact: Kerry Stokes was actually born and raised in an orphanage and didn't discover his biological family until he was an adult. His story is one of the most remarkable rags to riches tales in Australian history. This Holocaust survivor fled war-torn Europe with nothing and built a shopping center empire worth billions. Frank Lowy's story begins not in a boardroom, but in the chaos of post-World War II Europe. Born in Czechoslovakia, he survived the Holocaust, lost his father, fought in the Israeli War of Independence, and eventually made his way to Australia with barely a penny to his name. In 1959, he opened his first small deli in Sydney. That humble shop grew into Westfield, one of the most iconic shopping center brands on the planet, with malls across Australia, the UK, the US, and Europe. In 2018, he sold the Westfield empire for a staggering $33 billion. At 95 years old, Frank Lowy's legacy is nothing short of extraordinary. Fire fun fact: Frank Lowy is also passionate about football. He served as chairman of Football Federation Australia for over a decade and was instrumental in bringing the sport to mainstream Australia. Cardboard. That's right. This man turned cardboard boxes into a $12.8 billion fortune. Anthony Pratt inherited his father's packaging business, Vicey Industries, and refused to let it stay small. Under his leadership, the company exploded into a global manufacturing powerhouse, producing cardboard boxes, packaging materials, and recycled paper products sold across Australia and the United States. Pratt Industries in the U.S. alone employs tens of thousands of people and operates some of the most advanced packaging plants in the world. The lesson? Sometimes the most boring product can make the most extraordinary fortune. Fire fun fact: Anthony Pratt has pledged to invest $2 billion in the United States to create thousands of American manufacturing jobs, a move that earned him a meeting at the White House. Wall Street said he would fail. The banks refused to lend him money. He went on to become one of the richest people in Australia. Andrew Twiggy Forrest had one of the most dramatic come-ups in Australian business history. After a previous company collapsed and left him with a ruined reputation, he started Fortescue Metals Group in the early 2000s and proceeded to take on mining giants BHP and Rio Tinto on their own turf in Western Australia's Pilbara region. Everyone said it couldn't be done. Banks wouldn't touch him. But Twiggy pushed through, built the infrastructure himself, and turned Fortescue into one of the world's biggest iron ore producers. Now worth over $20 billion, he's channeling his fortune into green hydrogen, determined to decarbonize the industries he once helped pollute. Fire fun fact: Andrew Forrest and his wife Nicola have pledged to give away the majority of their fortune through the Minderoo Foundation, making it one of the largest philanthropic commitments in Australian history. At 93 years old, he still goes to work every single day, and he's worth $23.4 billion. Harry Triguboff, known as High-Rise Harry, is Australia's most prolific apartment builder. Born in China to Russian Jewish parents, Harry emigrated to Australia and got into real estate at a time when apartment living was barely a concept in the country. His company, Meriton, has built over 75,000 apartments, more than any other developer in Australian history. Sydney's skyline. Harry helped build it, and despite being 93 years old, he reportedly still shows up to the office every day. When asked why he doesn't retire, his answer is simple: what would I do? Fire fun fact: Harry Triguboff once said he doesn't trust fund managers with his money. Instead, he reinvests almost everything back into property, a strategy that's clearly worked out pretty well. She inherited a debt-ridden company and turned it into a $25.5 billion empire. Meet Australia's richest person. Gina Rinehart is not just the richest person in Australia. At her peak, she was the richest woman in the entire world. But her story isn't simply one of inheritance. When her father, Lang Hancock, passed away, he left behind not a fortune, but a struggling mining company buried in debt. Gina fought through brutal court battles, family feuds, and industry skepticism to turn those assets into something extraordinary. Her crown jewel, the Roy Hill Iron Ore Mine in Western Australia, is one of the largest mining operations on Earth. Say what you will about her controversial views and very public family disputes. As a businesswoman, Gina Rinehart is absolutely ferocious. Fire fun fact: at her peak in 2012, Gina Rinehart was reportedly earning over $1 million every 30 minutes. That's not a typo. And there you have it, the top 10 richest people in Australia. From a teenager rejected by every investor in the room, to a Holocaust survivor who built a global empire, to a woman who inherited debt and turned it into billions. These stories prove one thing: extreme wealth rarely follows a straight line. Whether you're inspired or infuriated by these names, you can't deny the scale of what they've built. So which story surprised you the most? Drop it in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you want more countdowns like this, hit subscribe and the bell so you never miss one. See you in the next video.